I am so excited to be having some tea again today with my amazing friend, Jose Matos, who is the absolute best podcast with critical condition sports. Jose, thank you so much for coming on and having tea with me today.
Well, thank you, Misty. I appreciate coming on. I appreciate the invite. I've never had tea, so I'm trying it for the first time. So, it's not bad.
Pinky's out, definitely, because this is MMA tea. We keep it nice and hot, super piping hot, and we definitely spill it on the show. So now tell us a little bit about your podcast for those of you who haven't gotten to watch. It's amazing. You can find it on YouTube. What is it? All the places.
Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all podcast platforms. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. I appreciate these kind words. Yeah. So Critical Condition Sports is available on all podcast platforms, whether it's, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever, any other platform, you name it, Google Pod, it's on there. So it's pretty much just a weekly show where I have a weekly guest. And I know you've been on there as well. And we'll talk, fights, we'll talk things in MMA. And I do keep it kind of fresh. So most weeks it's centered around MMA, and I'm talking to a fighter, someone in the fight business, but I like to change it up. I'll have somebody in a different kind of field, and we'll talk a little bit about their story. We'll just talk about life, and we'll talk about their journey in general. I took a step back from MMA last week, and I had Sage Brocklebank, who's an actor on the hit show Psych. Psych ran for 8 seasons with 3 movies, and we talked a little bit about sports gambling, but we kind of kept it fresh.
As you noticed, I'm a Psych fan. See my poster. This is from the set of Psych. They have the exact same poster on the show Psych. Huge. Yeah.
So, Sean Spencer, the psychic, correct? Yeah. Well, Sage plays Buzz McNabb.
Dude.
Yeah. So,
he's so cool.
Yeah. He plays Buzz McNabb on the show. So we were able to talk. So he's not the biggest sports fan. So we're able to talk about his journey and how he mentors kids in acting. The life of an actor, his time on the show. We talk about Burning Man, what Burning Man is. He was able to, define what it was for me and explain that. So it was a step different for me as far as like building new content and creating content for everyone out there. But again, it was fun. I grew up watching Psych, one of my favorite shows. It was an honor to talk to him. One of the nicest human beings I've ever met. And that episode's out now on all podcast platforms. So go ahead and check it out. It's kind of a different turn for my show, which was nice.
Oh, that's awesome. You always have fresh content on your show. And I know that working with kids and mentoring people is something that's important to you as well. So
absolutely.
That is super cool, man. I love it. Speaking of your show, what was like your favorite guest that you've ever had on?
Man, I get asked this question a lot. It's really hard. I love every single person that comes on the show because they all offer something unique, right? The thing I love about content creating or having guests on is just meeting new people. We met, you had a Ryder Newman on the show, and, Ryder's a guy that I've had on my show as well. I had a tough reunion with him. And, again, social media can be very beautiful. At the same time, it can be kind of harsh, but it can be beautiful when it's used the right way. So, I've met a lot of phenomenal people. Man, it's so hard. I hate this question. Somebody that I enjoy having on is Dan Argueta, who's a fighter that was on The Ultimate Fighter, one of the most humble human beings in the world, gave me a different definition of what, hard work is, just by talking to him. Again, one of the coolest people, TJ Perkins, who wrestled in the WWE, it was fun to be able to watch someone on TV wrestle as I was growing up, to just have somebody on my guest that I never in a million years thought I'd be talking to, and then much less just talk about football. On the show with them. So these are my favorites. Chelsea Torres and Corey Mack, 2 amazing people that have really helped me out so much in this podcasting journey. My favorite, Misty Loggins. You can't go wrong with Misty Loggins, awesome conversations. We're able to talk about fights and all that good stuff. I know we were talking a lot, especially during that Ortega and Volkanovski fight that we saw. It's always a good time to talk to Misty Loggins. So
man, we broke it down and you were spot on a lot of your breakdowns. I'm like, dude, your fight IQ is off the chain there, I guess you could say.
I appreciate that. But so many awesome guests.
Oh, well, you're absolutely a joy to watch on your podcast and also just to talk to. What got you into MMA?
Got me into MMA. So it was, believe it or not, I was watching the Tito Ortiz fight versus Ken Shamrock. It was part 2. My dad pulls me from the living room. Same thing with wrestling. I became a wrestling fan because my dad pulled me into the living room with my uncle Benny there, and they were watching it. So, that's a different story for another day. But as far as MMA, he had my Uncle Benny there. He had a couple family members there. They're watching this guy named Tito Ortiz versus Ken Shamrock, and the hype and the build up kind of reminding me of WWE, except that the heat between these two guys was real. I mean, they really hated each other. At the time, I didn't know. I thought everything was real. So I watched them fight. I saw Tito Ortiz just bulldoze through Ken Shamrock. Then I saw Rich Franklin versus David Laws in the main event. And after those 2 fights, I was hooked. Rich Franklin was a badass. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but he was.
No, you can say whatever you want.
Yeah, he's a badass. And, he reminded me of Jim Carrey. I used to like the Ace Ventura movies. So I was hooked. I thought he was Jim Carrey for the longest time, but it's So Rich Franklin and Tito Ortiz both got me into the sport. So my very first media event that I attended for Triller was Tito Ortiz competing against Anderson Silva. And even though it wasn't the result that I wanted for Tito, it felt like full circle. He was a reason why I got into MMA, and then to have my very first event, that I attend as media be a Tito Ortiz event, it was awesome. So that's what got me into MMA. I enjoy the fights. The Ultimate Fighter, such a pivotal show, one of my favorite shows. I started off with season 5. That just hooked me. That just kept the hook going. So I've been in love with the sport ever since.
Oh, that's awesome. That is awesome. My granny is the one who got me into combat sports through wrestling. She's, she passed away when I was a little girl, but she used to love watching what she called wrestling. And I'd go over and watch it with Granny, and she was 85 years old. She'd still get up, and yell, "Come on, Sting, you can get him." It was great.
I hit him with the chair.
And my mom, who was always a boxing fan, now she's a huge MMA fan. She just thinks Jorge Masvidal hung the moon. I mean, he's on every single prayer list she can get him on. Like, my mom puts Jorge Masvidal on the prayer list just because she just loves that man so much. But, game bred. He is definitely the favorite of a lot of nanas everywhere. That is for sure. And myself, who I'm not necessarily a nana, but I do love me some game bred.
What's not to like? He's awesome. The 2-piece and a soda.
Well, we have some seriously fun stuff coming up on this next fight night, right? Yeah. I mean, we went from crazy cards, and now we are going into some crazy additional cards. But I am super, super stoked to see our former champ, Andre Arvloski, fight. What do you think about this coming up fight with Carlos Felipe?
So, believe it or not, I saw Tito and Rich through my first UFC event, and then the second one I saw was Andre Arvloski versus Tim Sylvia. So Andre Arvloski is a throwback name, right? It was the third fight in the trilogy. It's a throwback name. UFC heavyweight champ. Again, I remember him from that good fight that he had against Tim Sylvia. Unfortunately, it didn't go his way. Then I've seen him grow. Whether it was him, beating Jake O'Brien, whether it was him again overcoming adversity and trying to beat Father Time, whether it was through some of those heartbreaking losses against Stipe Miocic. He's a vet. He's a straight up vet on there. He's got a lot of fights under his belt, of course, and he's won 3 out of the last 4. He's won 3 out of the last 4. It's going to be a very intriguing fight. I just don't know if he can pull it off, though. I just don't know.
That T. Sherman fight, though, he looks so good. I know he's 42, but the man he's still got the speed. He's proven that he can still get it done, and he's a different breed for 42. I think he might be one of our OGs, but he can. What is he? He's more of like a Sambo guy, but he loves to box. But
yeah, I think the Pitbull, right? The Pitbull, Andre the Pitbull Arvloski. He did a lot of damage on the feet. He's really finished off some great fighters there. But Carlos Felipe, he's 11-1. It's on a 3-fight win streak. It's very intriguing. Obviously, Felipe is the younger fighter. He's younger than Arlovski, so it's going to be very intriguing to see again how much is experience going to carry him. Is a little bit of youth going to be able to help Felipe go into that fight and be able to overcome again what would be the biggest win of his career. So it's going to be a very intriguing matchup. I think Felipe gets it done, though.
It's anybody's guess. It just breaks my heart to ever go against Pitbull. I mean, dude is just impressive as all get out. But Felipe is a heck of a striker.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, this is definitely going to be a slugfest for sure. I don't know. I can't sleep on the pit bull. I can't sleep on him. I'm going to go. I'll take pit bull in this one then.
Yeah, I'll take Felipe on this. I mean, he's come out, looked good. Again, the thing about Arvloski, where I question is, you're going up against, a little bit of, again, youth, right? Younger strikers that have given him issues before in the past. Again, I look at Stipe Miocic. I'm not saying Felipe is going to ever be Stipe Miocic, right? But he struggled with that. He's lost a lot of exchanges. Again, you want to talk about the two Tim Sylvia losses, where he's caught him. He's got a button that a lot of people have hit on the chin. And of course, right, I mean, I would never be able to take one of those punches, right? Of course. But, the thing about Arvloski, we've seen him vulnerable. And again, Felipe knows the opportunity that's at stake. He beat Andre Arvloski. I mean, that's a huge name that goes under your belt for that. And it'll be a huge accomplishment. But again, that's why they have the fights,
That's exactly right. That's why they have the fights. I'm super, super stoked for that one. And, I had put some cookies in the oven for us because I knew we were going to be having tea. And I have this really good Holly Holm recipe. And hang on. Oh, man. Look, it's Aspen Ladd cookies. Dang. Aspen Ladd cookies came out. What? Who knew? What are you thinking is going to be coming up on this with Norma Dumont?
Very intriguing.
Go ahead.
No, sorry. Very intriguing, though. I mean, very random news, right? I don't know what you were doing, but I remember just getting the alert, right? Like Holly Holm's out. I'm like, oh, crap. Sucks, right? We all want to watch. We love Holly Holm. How could you not?
I mean, awesome. She's great. I love Holly. I was so stoked for this, and it's a main event. It's a main event card. I just was so excited to see her fight.
Exactly. And then you see what happens with Aspen Ladd. I believe it was this weekend, maybe. I'm not sure. I'm not exactly sure. I believe it was this past weekend where she missed the weight.
Oh.
And then she gets this fight. I'm like, what the hell? It happens, right? Now, granted, I'm not sure if they're fighting under the same what weight they're fighting, but I know Ladd had issues making the weight, though.
Yeah,
I know you want to talk about
that. They are fighting at what, 140 now?
140?
Is it not?
Oh,
135, 140?
I wasn't sure what they were fighting. What? I do believe you're right. I believe maybe it might have been one. It was 135. I believe it was 135 because Aspen Ladd was fighting and she was trying to weigh in at 135 and she came up like 137.
Yeah, and that was against Macy
Kiasan. Yeah, Macy Kiasan from Louisiana.
I watched that video and I was like, that was pretty. It's pretty painful to watch. And then she got called out, big time by the champ Miesha Tate. Champ was not. She seemed to think something shady was going on there behind that curtain, and they ended up like totally scrapping that fight. Now here we go. We turn around and we see her replacing Holly Holm, and a lot of folks have been kind of up in arms about it just because of the wake up. But this is the third time that this has actually happened to Aspen Ladd. Like, she has missed weight, I think 3 different times, and that stuff happens. But
it does.
We had it happen last weekend with the Randy Brown fight, I guess.
Yeah. They missed the weight.
About what, 4.5 pounds?
They did. And so I think the biggest issue was they were saying that, oh, well, he's gonna get charged like 20% of his purse, but
when your purse is 50, I mean, here's the thing. I mean, just as a fan, I feel like sometimes people are buying poundage, and I don't know what it's like to have to make weight. I've never had to starve down, but it's almost where it's becoming a little too often for me. I don't like it. I think maybe the UFC needs to up the ante a little bit. 20%'s not incentive enough for some of these people to make weight.
I agree with you. No, I agree with you. I mean, also look at the purse, right? You lose, and it's what's 20% out of $8,000. It's not going to be very much, to be able to compensate that. Plus, I mean, you could also always debate, argue whether it's an advantage, right? Because you're not fully dehydrated or killing your body. Of course you are, right? You're making weight, right? It's very grueling and task. I think that, so the biggest issue is, and I know my friends joke around about this, but like Sean Strickland sends a lot of crazy stuff, right? He says a lot of crazy stuff, and I love the guy. That guy is a G. But the thing about like Sean Strickland that people failed to understand is that The UFC would much rather have, I mean, are they excited that some of the things that Sean has said? No, they're not excited about some of those things, but they hate, if there's anything they hate more than some of those things that Sean Strickland has said, like as an example, they hate people missing weight. You know, it drives Dana White nuts.
Right.
And we've seen it happen a lot. We have seen it happen a lot. Right. And at the end of the day, look, like, I'm not a fighter. I didn't sign up to be in that profession. You know, so I don't know. I don't know what it's like. But if you do sign up to a profession, that profession, you do know that it is obviously training, putting in that work, and also the way you're eating and cutting weight is a part of it. That's
right.
like trying to be a lawyer and not expecting to go take the bar.
That's a great way to put it.
You know what it is?
Aspen was actually suspended for this before from the California Commission. I think suspended her a while back because she had had an insane weight cut. I think it ended up being like 18% of her body weight or something. And it for whatever reason, they didn't think it was a good idea for her to be competing for a bit. And she had to take some time off. So this is something that's happened to her consistently. She knows that this happens. And like I said before, and like you just said, not a fighter, don't know what it's like, but as a fan, this crap gets kind of old. You know, I want to know for sure that I'm watching an equally matched fight. And I definitely don't like the idea of someone's opponent going into this feeling like they've been slighted in any way, shape, or form, you know, going into the match. This is martial arts. This is classy crap, you know? Yeah. We're going to beat the crap out of one another, but in the most classy way possible, and fairness is super key. But at any rate, it's going to be kind of exciting to see Aspen fight. I mean, what's it been? Nearly 2 years now.
So her last fight was 2019, December 2019. So that's the last time she's fought. We're nearing on the 2-year mark.
Yeah.
And Dumont, you know, she's been a little more active than her. You know, she's had 3 fights on there. She's had 3 fights since the last time that Aspen has fought. Obviously, again, that's not up to everyone's control, right? The fighter's control. But of course, you know, I like the experience factor going in there. I like who's, you know, I think that ring rust or cage rust is a thing to a certain extent. And I think in this case, when it comes to like Aspen's odds, I don't like them. You know, again, the issues of making weight, you know, Dumont a little more fresh, you know, again, as far as, you know, she's fought. It's another thing. Again, you know, have we seen Aspen break? We have. You know, we saw that Jermaine Deramey fight. Forgive me if I'm mispronouncing that. We've seen that. You know, like, so you question the mentality, right? I'm not here to say
that was her only defeat, I think, right? Yeah. Wasn't it?
Yeah, that was. Jermaine? But again, you see those kind of like off things, and you're just like, well, that's alarming. I think Dumont's going to win this fight. I think she's got every advantage in her corner. Aspen, you know, has a big chip on her shoulder and wants to prove out that, you know, she's about it. We'll see. You know, I just don't know if Misha should kick someone when she's down. I think that I am not a female, but people have told me that for females, it is a lot harder to make weight than it is for a man. And they have a lot more to deal with.
Yeah.
Females have a lot more to deal with as far as what's going on with their bodies than men do. So I can't imagine it being harder for females.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, I can imagine it would be hard. I mean, my gosh, like I said, I'm so glad this is not something I have to do in my profession. But, you know, you sign up for it, you know, but at the same time, we'll see. I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt. I want to see what she's going to do for the fans when she gets into that octagon. I'm with you though. I'm actually thinking that Norma's going to come out with this one. I definitely think they're going to take it to the ground and ground a pound. I think within the first round, we're going to I think Aspen's going to go for a takedown. And I think they're going to I think it will definitely end up on the ground and pound for these girls. I don't think they're going to stay in strike for very long. Because I mean, Holly Holm, she, and that's another thing is Norma's coming into this preparing to fight Holly, who is she's a heck of a boxer. You know, like imagine training all this fight camp against Holly Holm. Then you're training to box, and now suddenly, boom, it's Aspen Ladd, and you're going to be wrestling her or, you know, grappling.
Different style.
It's going to be fun.
It'll be very intriguing. You know, it'll be very intriguing. Aspen has a lot to prove in this one. Especially with what happened, you know, not that she has a lot to prove here per se, but I mean, there's definitely be eyeballs from the UFC to see what she can do. Of course, she made up for I guess, you know, the UFC gets pissed off whenever people miss weight. But at the same time, she's also stepping up after, Holly was out. Again, you want to believe that that's going to carry some favor, right?
Right. So I think so. And I'm not really sure who they should have put in there. I really don't know. I mean, I don't know who would have been a more fair person to put in. I'm just glad that I'm not glad. I would love to be someone who gets to put fights together. Wouldn't that be like so awesome?
Oh yeah, be in the war room with Dana White. Hell yeah.
Oh man. So yeah, I'm not going to say that I'm glad I'm not. I'm just going to say that would have been a tough decision for anyone. But I mean, but I forgot to mention earlier when we talked about the card, we got Jim Miller is going to break a record on this card. This is his like 38th UFC fight.
Jesus, Jim Miller's still doing the thing.
8 fights.
Shout out to him.
In the UFC. And the dude is still fighting. Man, it's going to be so cool. Well, I don't care if he wins or loses. Just to fight 38 fights, man, what an OG legend.
That's crazy. Jim Miller's still doing.
So we've got a holiday coming up. I'm going to call it a holiday on November 1st. So for those of you watching, you probably know a little bit about my story. I have CRPS, which is complex regional pain syndrome. And it's a multifactorial neurological disease. And I'm very blessed that I am surviving it every single day. But we are trying to raise awareness through the month of November. So November 1st is Color the World Orange Day. Jose, would you do me a huge, huge favor? Anything. And would you go orange on November 1st to help raise awareness for CRPS?
Absolutely, I will.
Thank you so much.
So just a shirt, right?
Orange whatever shirt? You want to wear, you know? I'm trying to get as many folks in the fight community involved so that we can help fight this monster by the only way I know how, and that's to raise awareness, because there's only about 200,000 of us with CRPS. There's not really that many. So it goes very unresearched. And I think the first step toward us finding a cure is for folks to even know it exists. So absolutely. We're going to go orange. Well, where can people find you on social media so that we can keep up with you? And folks, please, right after this, please go follow Jose. He puts out the most awesome content. His shows are always fresh, always fun to watch, and you never know who he's going to have on. So where can we find him?
Yep. So on Instagram is at Critical Condition Sports. On Twitter, still trying to grow on Twitter, but it's at Condition Talk. And on YouTube, just Critical Condition Sports. Check that out. So next week, right? So follow the accounts, because next week I'm going to have a guest, and it's going to be a very special episode, because normally, Misty, I do the episodes on Thursdays, Fridays. Usually that's when they'll hit, Wednesdays, maybe even. Next week, though, it's going to drop on a Saturday, and it's dropping on a Saturday because I have a very special guest that's coming on. It's going to be short. It's going to be around to a 20 to 25 minute interview, but it's a fighter that I'm very excited. He's got a lot of hype, and unfortunately I cannot give the name today on this show, but I will be announcing it sometime next week at my Instagram at Critical Condition Sports, on Twitter at Condition Talk. Check that out. It's gonna be a fun one. That fighter is fighting on that Madison Square Garden November 6th card. Again,
which is a huge card. So
it's a huge card. So it could be anyone. So be on the lookout for that. But this is a phenomenal fighter, and I'm very excited to be able to get the opportunity to interview him. He'll be on next week's show. This last one was Sage Brocklebank. So you can go ahead and follow the Insta pages. Go to the podcasting networks, Linktree in my Instagram at Critical Condition Sports. That's on there. You'll be able to check that out. It's a very fun episode out there for everyone. So Instagram, Twitter, you got it all.
Yes, seriously, folks, go check it out. I always enjoy the content that I'm seeing on there. I haven't seen a show yet that I didn't love and that I didn't actually watch. You know, it's not a click through. You're going to sit there and you're going to love it. So, Jose, thank you so much for coming and having tea with me. We got to do this again soon, man.
For sure.
I enjoyed
it. Some fights. We'll have some big fights to talk about later on, though.
Yeah, we are. And I mean, one thing I can say about talking with you is we don't mince words. You know, we're going to say it like it is. You guys may not agree with us. You may agree with us. We don't really care. We're going to tell you what we think. And that's what I love about you, Jose.
I appreciate that. And if anyone disagrees with that, go ahead and check out the episode where you were on, where we talked about that Brian Ortega and Alex Volkanovski fight. And literally, we had it down word for word with what happened on there, folks. So check that out, folks. I mean, we know what we're talking about here.
We sure do. And thank you, Jose. I hope you have an awesome rest of the week.
Thank you so much. You too.
Pinky's out, folks. I hope you enjoyed it while we spilled the tea. Bye, guys.
Thank you, everyone.